And welcome back. Joining me now is Democratic State Representative Melanie Morgan. Representative, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for inviting me. It's such an honor.
Well, we appreciate you sharing time with us on the last day of the session here. So your bill, House Bill 2602, the hair discrimination bill, has gotten national attention. How does this issue impact particularly people of color, particularly women?
Well, I feel like I gotta start back at the beginning of this. It really starts with the state equity office, right, and building equity. The real thing is that we have been in a system that has been against Black African Americans, people of color, and marginalized people. It has not had distribution. There's not been good distribution of resources to people of color, et cetera, et cetera. So we've been dealing with Black codes from the Reconstruction era. Those codes were made up to keep Black people in line now that they were no longer enslaved. We see that they're still evident in places of employment, and we see that it's still evident in education places, as we saw with the wrestler from Texas. I had a constituent who has experienced some hair discrimination herself, who came to me and asked me, would I run this bill? At first, it was tough. You know, my staff told me, no, I don't think you can run this bill. We already have a discrimination laws on the books. I'll be honest with you, I cried. And the reason why I cried is because we're always told no. Every time we try to move forward in inclusion, in justice, and in fairness, we are told no, that we are to get back in the back of the line. But I am here as their state representative to bring all of those issues of civil rights, to dismantle all of white supremacy and dismantle Black codes that evolved out of that, and say that it's time for inclusion of all people across our great state of Washington.
What sorts of stories did you hear from constituents, or what have people shared about how this issue has impacted their lives, affected their careers or other opportunities?
I could just start with myself. So I'm considered to have good hair in my culture. It's straighter. I don't have to use chemicals on my hair. I did at one time when I was growing up, because that's all the role modeling that I had, was that Black women, we straightened our hair with relaxers. These relaxers are dangerous. They burn scalps of children as well, and breathing in the fumes is just not good for health-wise. So going natural and going back to what we are originally blessed with our hair is what everybody else in this country gets to do. You get to walk out of your house with your hair in the way you choose to style your hair every day. I think that that should be the same for everybody else, especially Black women who encounter this the most. And that is what we heard in the testimonies. We heard a lot of Black women come forward and say how they have been discriminated at work. They have lost jobs. They have lost the potential of employment because they are not straightening their hair. They are not assimilating and having white hair. But we are coming to work with their natural hair, their God-given hair.
And I believe some of the testimony, people were saying that, employers or other people in a position to give or deny an opportunity would say that it was as if it was a political statement or something to not adjust their natural hair. Is that accurate? I mean, that people viewed it that way.
Are you saying that?
No. I'm saying that was the types of things that people would run into when they would encounter this stuff.
Well, let's be honest. If white people are still in control of the system, that means that we want everybody to assimilate in what is the majority in the system. But we're saying that, yes, we can still have this system, but it has to be inclusive. So either you're going to have the system where it excludes people, and we will continue to fight it, or you're going to be inclusive and have justice and fair treatment across the board for every American and for every visitor that visits our country.
In terms of the broader picture of equity, the discussion, how significant is the effort in the governor's office and legislative efforts to put sort of equity into state law and define things and use that as a sort of guiding principle for agencies and that sort of thing?
This is why I'm excited that the House and the Senate decided that we know we need a state equity office. And that is going to be the guiding tool that is going to guide the governor's office with the state agencies in making sure that parity happens.
In terms of the concept of fairness, what needs to happen? The hair discrimination bill passed. What needs to happen? What are some other areas, from your perspective, that just need to be addressed?
Well, there have been lots of bills that we have passed. And you could take the TANF bill for instance. We know that black women were the highest amount in the demographic groups that were getting kicked off of the system due to homelessness. So Representative Intamin and Representative Sen, they address this problem so that we are not kicking off people who are in disparities, that we're actually helping them to succeed. So my hope is that as we move forward, that we're moving forward with a different lens, that we're moving forward with an equitable lens, that we're leaving yesteryear behind. What happened yesteryear is yesteryear. Today, we have 16 members of color just in the House chamber. That means it has to change because we're here. My life is here. I bring my life to work every day that I come. And I am not a white woman. And I'm not a person who's white on the inside. I'm through and through black. Therefore, I can only bring black lens to my meaningful laws that I make in making sure that it's equitable and inclusive.
You're a former school board director.
That is correct.
How does that experience factor into your work here in the legislature, your perspective on issues affecting schools and students and communities?
So also know that I grew up overseas and that I'm also a veteran as well. So I have a broad lens coming into this. But I never imagined that there was inequity inside the school system. I grew up under Dodd school systems in Italy and Spain. But we're sheltered when you go to Europe. We're sheltered from what is going on here in the country. So coming back to the country to raise my family here now I'm getting involved in the school system and seeing, whoa, there's a lot of disparities here. So being on the school board provided the data that I needed to see to show me that I was in right thinking, that we need to build a more equitable system inside of our schools, inside of our employers, and inside of our state altogether.
So we've got about 4 minutes left. Just looking back on this session, your first session in the legislature. Second session. I blew it. Sorry. Okay, second session. Forgive me. Long day.
Yeah.
So what do you consider the biggest wins and the biggest losses or missed opportunities from this 60-day session?
Oh, gosh. I think the biggest win is the shift in the leadership in the House. That we elected a first-time woman and a woman who is out, a gay woman. I think that's huge for us. I think the other huge piece is my caucus trusted me and elected me Deputy Majority Floor Leader. That is unheard of for a freshman to be at the leadership table. So I am clearly just honored, and I was excited and ecstatic to do right by them on the floor with the floor leader. I think the missed opportunity is that there are a group of 10-year-olds that came to me last session to write a bill on a state dinosaur. And I gladly wrote that bill. And I went back during the interim and I took that draft bill back to those students. And they were so excited and they erupted when I told them that my legislative assistant had made a special folder for them with the draft bill. This is a school that is low performing inside of a district that has low voter turnout. So this is huge that they're being civically engaged with their state representative and that their state representative took them serious as young people that are going to become voters and fold them into the process. The House passed it, but when it got to the Senate, it didn't move anywhere. So I'm a little disappointed in that, and that is a huge loss. Not a loss to the state representative because I have other bills, but a loss to those 10-year-olds and a loss to that teacher and a loss to that school district. I just read 2 letters today from 2 other schools that would love for me to champion some other bills, homelessness, dress codes. These are children that are being astute enough to know something is not right here. And I have been taught that I can write my state representative because she has shown that she responds. And that's how I responded to that 4th grade class at the time.
What was the dinosaur?
It was a Susasaurus rex that was found at the Sucia Islands in the San Juans.
Very cool. So can we expect to see that bill come back next year?
Well, if everybody would call their state senator and make sure that that bill comes out.
So we've got just a minute left here. In terms of you brought up homelessness. Are you satisfied with the work done this session on that issue?
Yes, I am. There was a lot of work to do. There is no way that we will ever be able to do all the work needed to be done in one session. What I enjoy as my caucus is that we work together on all the bills. There are bills that died that were just too controversial and that we're not ready. That's how I say it. That's how I think. We're just not ready to take it as far as we need to take it. But there is one bill that made it through for homelessness, and that is House Bill 1694, and that's about installment payments on move-in costs. This should help reduce barriers for people who are having trouble with getting in to any type of living situation because the moving costs are so high. They could be up to $5,000. Who has $5,000 in their bank account right now? I don't. They don't pay me enough up here to have $5,000 just sitting in my bank account. But this is real, meaningful legislation that is going to affect the whole state, not just a part of the state. Sometimes the state likes to say King County gets everything, but I'm from Pierce County, and I know that we're always forgotten. So that means that Eastern Washington is always forgotten as well. So this bill applies to every corner of the state that move-in costs now can be paid in 3 monthly installment payments.
Well, we're out of time. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Deputy Majority Floor Leader, Representative Melanie Morgan. We appreciate it. And still ahead, we'll have Republican Representative Jacqueline Maycomber. She joins us to discuss her personal story with insulin costs. That's after the break.